take a look at today's headlines from Houston. I'm Cheryl Mercedes. It's been over a week since the devastating hill country flooding, and this past weekend, the body of a 12-year-old boy from the Houston area was recovered and returned home. He tragically died alongside his mother and father during the flood. Hundreds of people lined the route as Shiloh Wilson's body came back to Kingwood from Kerrville Saturday evening. Jason Miles has more on the emotional tribute.
From those who knew him personally to others simply touched by the tragedy.
We all came out to see Shiloh come home.
Hundreds helped honor a 12-year-old finally back with his mom and dad.
It's almost part of a dream still. But this is great, seeing all these people come out.
Shiloh Wilson and his parents, Jeff and Amber, were in the hill country for a rodeo when catastrophic flooding swept through their campsite. Jeff and Amber were previously recovered, and Shiloh 1 week after the flood on Friday. Tom Schwager first met Jeff Wilson in college.
And I know that he fought tooth and nail to try to keep himself and his wife and son alive.
The Harris County Fire Marshal's office live streamed much of the journey back as people paid their respects along the route. What do you think of this outpouring?
The outpouring is great. I'm glad to see the turnout, to see the love for him, love for the family.
It's devastating. Amber was the sweetest person I've ever met. Shiloh was something. They called him Stingray.
Many here knew the family through Jeff, who was a longtime Humble ISD career and technical education teacher.
I just know that Jeff and Amber and Shiloh were looking at all this right now and probably got a big giant smile on their face. And it just breaks my heart that you just don't have a chance to say goodbye.
I'm told funeral arrangements for the family, impacted in an instant like so many others, are still being made. In Kingwood, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
As the heartbreaking homecomings continue, many of our crews have spent the past week in the hill country watching recovery efforts unfold in real time. Our Matt Doherty spoke with the members of the U.S. Coast Guard who have been working tirelessly in the search and reflecting on rescues they'll never forget.
The group of Coast Guard officers you see here are without question all heroes. 1 week ago, aviation survival technician Scott Ruskin, aviation maintenance technician Seth Reeves, Lieutenant Blair Ogugiofor, and Lieutenant Ian Hopper spent the 4th of July performing one miracle after another. Nearly 200, in fact, the large majority of them at Camp Mystic. Tell me the one rescue that sticks in your mind when you go to bed every night. What's the one that you're thinking about?
There was one little girl, I don't remember her name, but she was asking me if she could bring her stuffed animal, if there was space in the helicopter, and the obvious answer was yes.
For Seth Reeves, it was giving Jolly Ranchers. The lieutenant remembers what they were wearing.
I think I said that over the radio. I was like, hey, why do we have girls getting into the helicopter without shoes on?
For Lieutenant Hopper, it was the girl who reminded him to be a dad.
She's got tears running down her face, and she's scared. Clearly, she may have just lost her sisters. She may have just lost her friends. And I turn around and I give her a thumbs up, and I look in her eyes, and she looks back at me, and she gives me a thumbs up back, and musters a very scared but trying to be brave kind of smile.
Although 1 week has passed, it still feels like hours for the crew since they were swooping into valleys, rappelling on ropes through rushing water in the rain, and carrying the most defenseless and helpless to safety.
We received a phone call and we talked to one of those little girls who, sat on the phone with us and thanked them for being here.
Sometimes it's the sweetest words that are the most difficult to repeat.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do was not only listening to a small child that shouldn't have to know the horrors of a tragedy as this, but to thank us for something they really don't understand.
That was Matt Doherty reporting. We're also hearing from a Harris County flood control official just back from Kerrville, where he says the damage is unlike anything he's ever witnessed. Jeff Linder and his team were called in to help assess the destruction. Our Stephen Goen has more on what they saw and what makes this disaster different from the storms we've weathered here at home.
It's just very difficult to comprehend the gravity and the size of this.
When Jeff Lindner and his team from Harris County's flood control district arrived in Kerrville, this is what they saw. And as they worked this week to help survey the flood damage,
We went down 60 miles of this river.
they took pictures of the devastation.
We're talking about football-size piles of debris.
When you saw the conditions out there, what was going through your mind?
So I've done a lot of storm surveys, and this definitely ranks in the top echelon of those surveys.
While there, they collected data on 150 high water marks along the Guadalupe, in some areas noting steep terrain with a grade of 5 to 11 feet. That slope, just one of the reasons Lindner says flooding behaves so differently in the hill country compared to southeast Texas.
And that's what really results in these incredible rates of rise of water on these streams and creeks.
Speed, another major factor. Lindner says early estimates suggest that the Guadalupe may have flowed as fast as 20 feet per second during the flash floods.
And apply that to an 8x3 door, 24 square feet, you get about 9,000 pounds of pressure against that door.
It's that kind of force that explains why some buildings were wiped away entirely.
We typically don't have that level of destruction here in Harris County. Yes, the water can get very high. It can flood the structure, but there's still a structure left when the water goes down.
And while Lindner says this aftermath is unlike what we typically see from a Harris County flood, it's a stark reminder of what can happen.
You know, things like this can happen out there. It can happen on any river out there. It's good to know the knowledge and the history of these rivers.
In Harris County, Stephen Gowen, KHOU 11 News.
Here in Harris County, officials are vowing to go after anyone who tries to profit off this tragedy with fake GoFundMe pages. That's after Precinct 1 Constable Alan Rosen says they shut down a GoFundMe created by someone impersonating the father of a Houston flood victim. Maria Aguilera has the warning.
A week since the tragic Hill Country floods,
be re-victimized by these soulless criminals is just unconscionable.
A crime that strikes when families are in pain and scammers try to cash in, all while one Houston family is still grappling with unimaginable loss. A GoFundMe page popped up claiming to raise money for Chloe Childress. Constable Alan Rosen says the page claimed to be created by her father.
They haven't even buried their daughter yet, and somebody's trying to take advantage of them.
Someone reported the page. Precinct 1 investigators contacted GoFundMe, and within 10 minutes, it was taken down. How much money was raised?
They initially we were able to determine that they gave $1,500 initially, only to discover when we looked into who made the initial donations, those people were dead and had been dead for years.
GoFundMe tells us it has zero tolerance for misuse of the platform or attempts to exploit generosity. The fundraiser was removed, the account permanently banned, and all donations were refunded. During a time when so many Texans are mourning, someone tried to turn heartbreak into profit.
I want to catch these people. I want to make sure that they're brought to justice.
Maria Aguilera, KHOU 11 News.
GoFundMe says its team is actively monitoring and reviewing all fundraisers tied to the flooding, and verified fundraisers from this tragedy can be found at gofundme.com/TexasFloods. That's a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Cheryl Mercedes.